Greg Ballard used to be the mayor of Indianapolis with the largest popular vote maybe in the history of the world. Certainly the mayor of Indy from 2007 to 2015. And in all seriousness, he is one of the more popular mayors in this country and has retired and now involved in golf. But how are you?
Great introduction. I'm great, Rick. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. We've done this before. But, the bottom line with Mayor Ballard is he is a proponent of economic development. He's brought all-electric car sharing services to Indy, signed a contract to begin converting city vehicles to electric power. He focused on downtown development. Those are all really important pieces of economic development, as is sports. So talk about the sports piece.
Yeah, sports really has helped this city grow over the last 40 to 50 years, and I think most people know that. And we're almost a turnkey solution for so many different sporting events. And so that's why this one was so fun to do, because of the nature of the LPGA and the cause with which this is involved, which is women in tech. So putting all these pieces together in this city made it a lot of sense.
Well, and it makes a lot of sense from people outside. Without being overly dramatic, Indianapolis is known as one of those cities that gets things done, from the amateur sports capital of the world years ago to putting on the Super Bowl, I guess, in 2012, and you underpromise and overdeliver. And so that has to be built with a political consensus. The bottom line is, how generally did you do it?
Well, it's a team effort. We've always had a succession of really good mayors, so we have great civic engagement, great business engagement, and great nonprofit engagement. It all works together here. Everybody takes away their individual agendas and what's the best thing for the city going forward. And I think that's why we've been successful. That's why this one will be successful. Plus, we know how to host them. When people come in, they always say, "Gee, what a great venue! What a great people, great volunteers." All that matters, so that people want to come back.
Vision is earned, and it takes some consistency and some leverage and some power of leadership. And so when you talk about sports as economic development, it's hard to make that case all the time. You have to be really persistent in it. People see the Super Bowl and they understand, but getting there is harder to do. How long did it take before you were really able to build on your current successes and do more?
Well, I was very lucky. It's a great city, and if people realize what you want, if they realize what you want to do is good and will bring the community together, people come together pretty quickly here. And we have that reputation around the country, as you know, for doing things like this very, very well. But it's because the community does work together, and I'm able to do it because I left office last year, but people know I'm still trying to do good work in the city. I think that's important, and once they realize that, then people come on board.
Economy turning around a bit, but still fiscal constraints, unemployment, teachers. There's a whole prioritization. How do you make sure that the business of sports doesn't get swept up in the prioritization of one teacher versus one facility, for example?
Yeah, I know people talk about that sort of thing all the time, and they still do in this city also. But you have to realize we're trying to create the city that people want to live in. And if you do that, then people move in, businesses move in. It's important to continue the workforce development. So when you can look at that as individual things, but it's really not. It's about a quality of life of the city. Sports, arts, the cultural component, education, workforce development, all those things work together to build the city that people want to live in. And sports is a component of that. You cannot deny that. On any Sunday, you look at the NFL games, you can look at the NBA, you can look at whatever, but sports brings people together. It's a quality of life issue for people moving into a city, so it actually improves that, and you get more income taxes and property taxes and all of that.
And you know this better than almost anybody, that sports is basically another component of industry relocation. Everybody bidding for that Saturn plant, but everybody bidding for the NCAA playoffs too. And so how does that play out? You've had a pretty much a narrow escape last year with the Indiana religious laws. You can now talk about it a little more out of office. How'd you get that turned around?
Well, a lot of good people realized. I think the legislature was I don't think they realized quite what they were doing at that point in time. Didn't realize the impact that would happen nationally in that regard. So, I had my job in that was just to go out and say, this is not who Indianapolis is. In the meantime, great people were working under the radar to go over to the State House and say, come on, now look at what's happening here, and look what was going to happen, because what was going to happen is much worse than what did happen. So we were able to save so much of that. And then also, I think, get out the image of Indianapolis, say this is not who we are, and we want people to be welcome and inclusive here.
Without getting into too much of a political football, Any advice to the legislators in North Carolina as to how to deal with this situation they're in the middle of?
Well, they've already lost some events, right? I mean, and they have to realize if they want to accept those consequences, I guess that's their business. But I will just say this, that just make sure that you are always seen as welcoming and inclusive, because the people moving into your city and into your state, they're all looking for that. That is, it's not this fringe group over here. That's pretty much everybody right now, and they need to understand that.
And finally, if you knew, as a result of your work as mayor for so many years and then being a quarterback of bringing this Women in Tech tournament here, if the consequence of that meant that you would be putting better, would you take it?
I better have a lot of help next year when they all come in, right? I need my putter to be straight as an arrow going forward. So absolutely.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen, the future of City of Indianapolis and the Women in Tech Challenge. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.